Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Pastime podcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Kevin.
That's my dad.
How are you?
Dad, we are good. We are good. We're trying out something new today. As we said in our last podcast, we're going to kind of talk about a genre of baseball history. Ooh, big word there, I know.
Right out of the film industry.
5 whole letters. At least I don't say picture. Picture's very pretentious. So we're going to talk a little bit about trivia of certain topics rather than just being broad. Everyone likes trivia and fun topics. I like to do research. I was a history major in college. You know that, Dad. And it was really fun to dive into some of these topics that I don't really know. Maybe one movie got made about. How accurate was that movie, etc. Blah, 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 blah. Just trying to bring some reality, some real truth and facts and stats into our viewers' homes so they can use them to entertain their friends at ball games now that we can go back to the ballparks without masks and all that and have good conversations with baseball fans. So use this information however you want to. Today's topic, Dad, and my dad has no idea this topic. He's just going to act just like you all. I'm going to kind of entertain you with stories, trivia, questions, and we're going to have fun with it. Okay. Today's topic, Dad, is the AAGBPL.
Okay.
Do you know what that stands for?
I know it's the Girls Baseball League, All-American Girls Baseball League.
Professional Baseball League.
Professional
PBL.
League.
Yeah, it is a little hard to say. Hopefully I said it right the first time. AAGPBL. Professional Baseball League.
Fantastic.
So the movie that I was talking about, or I kind of mentioned earlier, is obviously
the isn't it horrible?
Tom Hanks.
Oh, what's the name of that movie? It was.
There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah, that's right. But it's on the T-shirt. We saw the T-shirt. Tell me the name of it.
Come on.
I can't think of it.
Come on.
I can't think of it right now.
Do you want more scenes?
No.
This is fun. I didn't think this would be the trivia already. That came out in, I believe, in 1992.
I know. I can see
the Rockford
League of Their Own.
Yes, League of Their Own. Rockford Peaches and all that
stuff.
stuff.
Sorry about that.
No. It's kind of fun. This is the trivia begins earlier. You don't have to apologize.
Yeah.
It's fun. That was the trivia gets harder. So this could be fun. Yeah. But yes, a League of Their Own. It could be 92 or 94. It's definitely an early 90s movie. But obviously it had Tom Hanks in it.
Yes.
Had a lot of other,
Madonna.
Madonna was in it. Yeah, Madonna was in it too. But really we're going to see, just like how a lot of historical movies are, based on a true story, what was factually accurate about that movie, because it definitely brought attention to the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League, and what was sort of embellished or, made for the silver screen, if that makes any sense. So in the movie, Dad, we'll start with some of that base to get started.
Okay.
Do you remember where they tried out at?
Wrigley Field.
Right. So Wrigley Field. Now, what's kind of fun about that, and you probably remember buses in the movie, right?
Yes.
So they never played a game at Wrigley Field. They never played any home games. I know a few scenes look like they were in Wrigley Field.
Right.
Just was easier to film at. They never played any home games there. They never played any home games or any games at professional MLB stadiums. They played a lot of minor league stadiums. That's what the buses were for. You saw, I got to take a bus from Kenosha to Racine and all that stuff. But the reason I brought up Wrigley Field is who created it?
Gary Marshall.
Nope. The clue was Wrigley. Philip Wrigley did.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
He came up with this idea because he thought he'd lose all his talent. He saw the likes of, Stan Musial, Ted Williams volunteering across baseball to serve their country, and he thought the war was going to just continue to grow and not be ended so as quickly as it did for the Americans, and that he was going to lose all MLB talent. So he sort of had this league as a backup for entertainment and also revenue. Keep in mind, he is a businessman.
Yes.
What are you going to do with all these ballparks? Not just his in Wrigley, but the minor league ballparks that were affiliated with MLB at the time, especially in the Midwest.
Wow.
Very important to note that the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League didn't have any sort of East Coast, ness. Nothing in the South, nothing in the West. It wasn't on the coast. Yeah. It was really only in the Midwest.
Yes.
So it was a very centralized thing. It wasn't.
And that was a hotbed of baseball back then.
Right, and I think to some extent it still is. There's truly less to do, so you kind of need more entertainment value. Think of the times. Yeah. Because Florida, I'm not going to war. I'm just going to go on my boat and go
to the beach.
Go deal with a hurricane or something.
Yeah.
I don't think there would be a women's professional baseball league that would have succeeded.
Correct.
Really in any other parts of the country, as well as it did in the Midwest. Yeah. So in the movie, I think it looks like there's maybe like 1 or 2 seasons. I mean, I think we follow Dottie for a season or 2.
Yes.
If you remember that, yeah. How long did it last? How long do you think it lasted?
The season?
No. We'll get to that.
Okay.
The entire league, because obviously it's not around anymore.
I think 5 years.
It lasted 12 seasons.
Wow.
Right? 1943 was its first year.
Wow.
Through 1954.
That's
12 seasons.
I didn't think it lasted that long.
At its peak was 1948. So right after the war. I mean, you have Boomtown after the war. You know, a lot more money. How at its peak? How many teams were in the AAGPBL?
12.
10. Real close. So you have basically, again, it's the Midwest. So you have the AL Central, the NL Central, just competing against each other in its own league. You have 10 teams at its peak. In the start of 43, there's only 4 teams. And that's where you saw that Wrigley Field. That's what the Rockford Peaches got, really, the Racine Bells. Because those 4 are the original core teams, and they lasted throughout the 12 seasons. But they added more cities as this grew.
Yeah.
As like, all right, so, my minor league team is, the, I don't know, Kenosha Kingfish. I don't think they were a thing, but I know they're the thing now. They're away playing some other team, but who's on my field? Who's playing?
Yeah.
So the field still got utilized. So concessions were, still people went to these games. Again, lasting 12 years, it's made some money. Certain teams, got in, certain teams got out, but 10 total teams at its peak in 1948.
Were there any teams out of Indiana? Was it kind of like Wisconsin, Illinois?
So that's what I'm about to get to. Yes, I'll tell you that to answer your question.
Okay.
I appreciate the questions on my questions. This is fun. This is I kind of like this. Are you liking it so far?
I love it.
This is great. I hope you're liking it at home too.
Yeah.
So I have a which of the following is not question coming up.
Okay.
So a lot of these teams have kind of funny nicknames. We talked about the Rockford Peaches. We talked about the Racine Bells. There's other teams, obviously. So I'm going to list 4 teams. 3 of these teams were, in fact, real teams. 1 is not.
Okay.
Okay? So you tell me which one is not.
Okay.
The Fort Wayne Daisies, the Springfield Sallies, the South Bend Susans, or the Chicago Colleens, which is not a real team.
South Bend.
That is correct. There was a South Bend team, but they were called the Blue Sox. It was the most, I don't know, baseball term, I suppose, at the time, because everything else was kind of named after women. Or, I mean, you got, the Daisies, the Sallies, and the Colleens at one time.
Yeah.
So I thought, yeah, well done, Dad. The first point of our trivia today, my dad earns. South Bend Susans. Could have been a team.
Yeah.
Could have been a
team.
team.
Yeah, because it's very close to Chicago.
But South Bend were the Blue Sox.
Yeah.
So they were a team. And
so basically it was a 4-state area
Mhm.
that most of the teams were in. Okay.
Chicago, Indiana, Wisconsin. I don't know if there was anything ever in Michigan.
I was thinking Iowa. Because Iowa butts up against...
Maybe. But that core.
Okay.
So the Chicago metro area, if you will.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay.
I-83?
I-70?
70?
64.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not from the Midwest. If you're from the Midwest listening because you're a big AAGPBL fan, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's talk.
They had their backpack.
He's from Chicago. He can do that accent. So during this time, so 43 through 54, right? So a little bit in the wartime, but a little bit after the boom time, women started going back to work, right? Women started working in factories.
Oh, yeah.
Women being employed became a thing in America, and obviously has not gone away. I'm curious what you thought their salaries were like. You can go by month, you can go weekly, or the year. I have it in weekly, but I can certainly do some multiplications on that.
We can do weekly.
Sure. How much money did they make in the 40s? We'll just put the average.
25 a week.
75 a week.
That's not bad.
So I did some math as well.
Huh.
So
that's not bad.
Exactly, and that's great mentality there, because right now 75 a week is insane. I mean that's beyond poor in America.
Yeah.
It's roughly $1,000 a week now.
Yeah.
Which you can live on. Yeah, that's $4,000 a month.
Right.
At that time, so let's do some math. We're going to get to this in a second. But they worked for about 4 months out of the year. They only got paid for the games they played.
Okay.
So in a 4-month salary, they're clearing $1,200.
That's not bad.
They're clearing, that's $300 a month.
Yeah.
And then $1,200 for 4 months. The average male salary for like a non-military guy, like a factory worker during that time, was $2,500 for the year. So they're making half that in 4 months.
Yeah.
So this is a pretty decent job.
Yeah.
A lot of people give the G of girls kind of slack. Like, why is it the girls' league? Like, we call it, it's men's baseball. Why do we call this girls' baseball? It was sort of marketed to the 18 to 25-year-old, realm at that time. You had some teenagers playing, professionally. So I think it is fair to say girls.
Yeah.
There were women up until about 29, 30 that were married. but it was also kind of a single boom at the time too. Just like in the movie, there were people that left baseball because their husbands died during war. That was a sad reality. But most players were young, what we would consider college-age women right now. So is that girls? Is that women? Some people get caught up on that. But that's why it was girls' baseball rather than maybe women's baseball.
And they were probably softball players before they were baseball players.
Some were not. Some enjoyed baseball. There's a lot of fun stories that we'll get to out of this, because we're going to get talking about some of the superstars that came out of this league soon.
Okay.
So I said they played for about 4 months. How many games did they play per season? Keep in mind, I think the best help I can give you here is they played at minor league parks, so they were almost considered like minor league players at this time.
4 months, I say they played 100 games.
108. So which is about the average for what minor leaguers played at that time.
Well right
you
now.
are doing really well. And their $75 a week is a little bit higher than what minor leaguers were paid at the time. Obviously not major leaguers. Sandman Musial is getting paid a lot more than this. Ted Williams is too.
Did they pay for their travel and meal money and all that?
Yeah, we'll get to that. But that got taken care of.
Well, that's a good salary then.
It's a good salary. Most of the girls were able to, again, most are 18, 20, 22, were able to send some of the money back home to their parents who they were still living with, especially if they were single and didn't have their own family yet. So it was a good way to employ, at 10 teams, I mean, you're only looking at maybe like 150 to 200, women, but that was a good way to get some extra money for that time at that age bracket. Obviously, we can dive into put 2021 values in 1945, but that's not what we're doing here. We're really appreciating for what it was in the moment. And some of these players are still alive, which is really cool when they have some Hall of Fame reunions and that kind of stuff. A lot of the people at the end of A League of Their Own were the actual women that played during that time.
That's true.
So that when like Gina Davis got to meet some people, that was kind of cool. That was real.
Yes.
And that was also filmed at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
So like I said, the pay was fairly good. I think we can kind of agree with that. But what kind of differs here, and this is where obviously it gets to the sexist part of the AAGPBL, part of their contract was definitely different from an MLB contract. What do you think was different? What are maybe some rules, some things they had to do that men didn't have to do? There's a bunch. There's a whole section of code of conduct.
I would imagine a lot of it was life on the road. They probably couldn't go to the bars without, chaperones and all that stuff.
Bingo, that's big. We'll get to that.
I would think appearance, they had to be, probably when they're on the road, they had to dress in a certain fashion. Very, dresses and those
feminine.
Type of things.
You can say feminine.
Okay. And then I think the others might be. I think those are my big two.
Yeah, I think your big two is enough for me. Big thing that they had to do was go to charm school.
That was in the movie.
Yeah, it was in the movie.
Yeah.
And some people forget about it because you focus on, there's no crying in baseball scenes or the field scenes.
Yeah.
But they did have to do things, before the game. It's not just practices and games.
Yeah.
When they were traveling or when there was an off day, going to a charm school, I think it was all in Chicago too, they had to learn, be debutantes, which fork to use and all that.
Yes.
Also from the movie, which was correct, they weren't allowed to wear pants. So they had to play baseball in skirts.
Yeah, that had to be rough.
Had to be rough when sliding.
Oh.
Had to be rough when running. Because if you're a girl, you don't want your skirt to blow up. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still a thing today, you don't want that to happen. They had to wear makeup.
Yes.
Which is
that was the other one I was
rough.
trying to get to.
But makeup, they had to look good on and off the field, especially for like photographs after the game, even doing like radio interviews or whatever. Because there were stars and people did get interviewed after the game, not as much as the press conferences of this day and age is. But hey, you hit a home run today. How's it feel? Like that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there were home runs. We'll get to that shortly. But yeah, no drinking or smoking. There were some women that 100% still did that, but they just didn't get caught. The chaperoning thing is real. Now keep in mind, again, you can feel one certain way about this, but each team had their own chaperone. Now that could be good or bad because, like I said, some of these girls. There's one girl even as early as 17 on the team. Yeah, maybe she needs someone to look after. She's going to some big cities.
Yeah.
She's playing in Chicago. She could get taken advantage of. Yeah, maybe.
In Chicago, yes.
Right. But then there's also girls that were like 30 on the team, and they still had all the same chaperone. It wasn't
Right.
just for certain age ranges. And the big thing here is if they wanted to seek a date, like, oh my God, there's Jimmy or whatever. He's cute. He gave me his number after the game or something like that. Like kind of almost reverse what you see in MLB today. They had to get the dates approved. And most times the chaperone had to go on that date with that person. regardless of age. Chaperones were usually older women.
Yes.
There's not another male here, so there's something in that. And also, no short hair. They couldn't cut their hair short. Something we don't have to worry about here, Dad, but when hair gets over the neck, women sweat terribly. It's a very hot part of your neck. You want that to be open. So a lot of women try to curl their hair away from their neck or have some sort of, coming down here.
Right.
Just because a hot summer day in Milwaukee or Racine or wherever, you don't want that much, sweat on you. These are thick uniforms still.
Yeah.
This is...
probably wool.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't, the nice polyester majestic blend they play in today. So keep that in mind too. And you're playing in a skirt, but it's hot. You're still in, imagine having a catcher's mask on. You had to have long hair.
Yeah.
It's, so that is certainly not a player focused about their, I just want to play. I want to have short hair so I can see the ball better and not have hair fly in my face when,
probably a lot of ponytails and everything.
A lot of ponytails for sure, or some curls that were up and out of the face or pinned it back. But so that's just the code of conduct, some crazy rules. I got two other kind of questions here. One kind of general and then one about the decline before we get into some kind of fun stats and league leaders and that kind of stuff. I'm a big stat guy, so I enjoyed researching this. Are you getting a big kick out of this?
Yeah, a huge kick.
I'm having fun with it, so that's good.
That's all that matters.
It is. I hope you're having fun with this as well. I'm passionate.
Yeah.
When I research
What made
stuff.
you choose this topic?
I think I didn't know enough about it, and I think once I learned that it was 12 years, think about that. That's a player's career.
Oh yeah.
A lot of players.
Yeah, especially when the guys came back from the war and major leagues, came back in a.
And I thought as soon as basically our boys came home from World War II, they'd be out. I'm surprised they lasted majority of their time after World War II.
Yeah.
They lasted to 54, and they had some good attendance.
Yeah.
They had championships, they had playoffs. The question I'm about to ask you is, were there trades? Were trades allowed in this league?
I say yes.
They were, and they were just as common as MLB. And it's probably a little bit more common because they could easily trade people.
Because there's close in proximity.
It's regional. Yeah. Last question before we get into stats, and stats will blow your mind. Trust me, this is where I really had a lot of fun. So they stopped in 54. What contributed to their decline?
54. I'm thinking they probably ran out of players. It was hard to recruit new players.
Not the biggest issue.
Okay.
Yeah. Women wanted to play.
Economics. They
keep going.
The fan base just wasn't there.
Why? What big invention of the 50s?
TV.
Bingo. So keep in mind that a lot of America, especially in this region, viewed the Girls Professional Baseball League as minor league baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Professional, but maybe gimmicky to an extent or something like that. And when Major League Baseball never got interrupted during this time. They lost a few players, but they're still able to play full seasons despite a world war going on.
Right.
So once that came back, minor league baseball really, was able to thrive back and do well. And now that you have a TV in your home, as opposed to a radio, you had to, if you wanted to see baseball, you had to go to a stadium.
Right.
And people wanted to see baseball more than anything in the 40s just to get away for 2-3 hours of the craziness of life.
Yeah.
Well, now that that's over, now that the boom of the 50s is happening, the baby boomers, people taking care of, kids. I got 2 kids to take care of at home. I can just watch the game.
Right. We probably couldn't afford it.
So I'll just turn in WGN or Channel 2 or whatever at that time was in Chicago, and I'll see the Cubs play or the White Sox play.
Channel 9.
Channel 9. There we go. So they'd really just lost viewership, and less people started going to their games when more and more people didn't, spend money on concessions or tickets or whatever, and focus more on just watching at home.
Yeah.
So TV was a big reason for their decline.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think you're right with the families and everything else. Mm-hmm. People are more involved in their family, raising their kids.
Yeah. Well, let's go into single season and all-time records. Okay. And it's okay if you've never heard of these women. I never have.
Yeah.
Outside one, I've never heard of anyone else. I wanted to pick out 3 sort of like offensive stats for single season and all-time, and then pitching. Let's talk about some legends of the AAGPBL.
Okay.
Couple things I want you to know about the differences between some rules of the girls league versus MLB. There wasn't a true standard ball size throughout the 12 seasons.
Wow, that doesn't make any sense.
It went from at one point to a regulation softball to a regulation baseball and every size in between. So they really experimented a lot with the balls. Base pass also changed throughout these 12 seasons. At one point, it was 60 feet, like I think modern softball is today.
Right.
And the biggest it ever went to was 85 feet. So it never
It
reached
was
the full 90.
Okay.
Fences also were brought in or brought out depending on what size of the ball and size of the base path. I'm sure there was a couple games that the fences weren't moved back in, but most games did have slightly shorter fences. Not, let's just say it was 400 in center.
Was it a temporary fence they put in?
I think it's like a temporary fence. Let's just say the center was 350. There really isn't standard measures because it really did change every season. The uniforms were pretty standard throughout 12 years. They always had to wear skirts, but the ball changed. Sometimes the bat changed, base pass changed. So a lot of these stats you can argue are maybe, oh, well, if baseball players only had 60-foot diamonds, this would also change. Of course, there'd be more home runs if the fences were brought in. Keep that in mind, but also keep everything else in mind about ball size, base pass, and all that stuff.
Okay.
So some of these may shock you, and you might keep in the back of your mind, well, this was a little bit different than baseball. A single-season home run leader, obviously, is Barry Bonds in MLB with 73. What is the all-time single-season home run record?
12.
29.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
Pretty
a woman
good.
named Joanne Weaver, who is in the Hall of Fame for the AAGPBL.
That's pretty good.
Her nickname was Joltin' Joe, and she also had the highest single-season batting average. Now, again, depends if you want to talk about. You want to talk about Ted Williams? Year was great. You can go back to, I think, Napla Joy had a crazy year. If you bring in Negro League stats, Josh Gibson at one time, I think, hit like 4 something.
Honus Wagner has high ones.
They have a lot of high average.
Yeah.
Single season batting average record. How much did Joltin' Joe get?
370.
429.
Wow.
So
she's a hitting machine.
She hit for hits. She hit for average.
Wow.
She hit for home runs.
Huh.
And she also has the all-time average. Joltin' Joe, 100% person you should know. Obviously, 429 was just a stellar year for her. Her lifetime batting average is
380.
359. So that she is, you could argue, the best hitter,
Oh,
the Pete Rose of the
heck
girls'
yeah.
professional baseball league.
Oh, yeah.
So power, average.
What position did you play?
I want to say Joltin' Joe was a first baseman, but check me at home.
Okay.
Right. But she definitely had some more power there. And a lot of people change positions often, too. Catchers were pretty popular for power as well. Stolen bases, like I just said, she played for the Fort Wayne Daisies, by the way.
Okay.
The little Daisy.
And Fort Wayne now has a minor league team.
Yeah, the Tin Caps, I think.
Correct.
They're called.
Very good.
This next person's nickname was the Flint Flash. She was obviously from Flint, Michigan. She led the league one year in stolen bases. Obviously, the Flint Flash. How many stolen bases did she have? Keep in mind, Ricky Henderson, one season, had 130 stolen bases and more games. Yeah. This is 108 games. Shorter base pass. How many did this girl, Sophie, I think her last name's Curis, I'll call her the Flint Flash.
93.
201. She stole every opportunity.
Wow.
So that shatters Ricky Henderson.
201.
Shorter base pass. I think this was...
her legs must have been so beat up because of sliding.
Exactly. I think this season was either an 80 or 85, so it wasn't a 60. It wasn't a 90. I would put that out there. But they called her the Flint Flash for a reason. If she got on first, she's getting a third. Like, that was just a thing.
Wow.
I'm sure she knew what catchers to steal on, what not to. They only played 9 other teams.
Yeah, but still, you would think
she got jumps.
Wow, she must have been very fast.
Yeah.
Because think about it, if they did it 60 feet, the catchers in those days, I mean, if they try to hold the runner on all that stuff, it's not a long throw.
Right.
Wow. That's amazing. That's a hell of a stat.
Yeah.
Good for her.
They could lead off. In professional softball or college softball today, you can't lead off. You got to have a foot on the base. You can't steal. But stealing was fine. It was supposed to be more baseball than softball.
Yeah.
Maybe the ball was a little bit bigger. But even then, I mean,
regardless,
she's stealing 201 stolen bases. So, quite impressive that I just wanted her to get that.
Imagine if she had a doubleheader, how sore her legs were.
Right.
And I think they did Sunday doubleheaders back in the day.
Yeah. Now, Joltin' Joe was the home run single-season record, but was she the all-time home run queen?
I say no.
Correct. It is a woman named Eleanor Callow who had only a total of 55. So Joltin' Joe played one season, got 29.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Joltin' Joe, despite the all-time average, despite the single season batting average, a single season home run. She played towards the end of the AAGPBL. I think she started in 48 or 49, and she didn't have as many years as Eleanor did. I think Eleanor was an OG and played her whole time and only had, 7, 8 home runs a year, but consistently 7, 8 home runs a year.
Huh.
So if Jolton Joe had more time and this, played until 60, she'd probably be the league leader and everything.
It was fun to watch those games, know. And if you think about it, I'm sure it was intimate stadiums and everything else.
Minor league parks.
Yeah, but I mean, good for them to be entertaining and everything else. You just wanted to picture how hard she threw.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was overhand. It was all pretty much
right.
All
But I'm
overhand.
saying 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
65 would be tops for velocity in those days.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
So Gina Davis's character in League of Their Own, I think was a person named Dot or Dottie.
Dottie.
Yeah. So that's based on a real person. It's based on a woman named Dorothy Schroeder, which you can easily get Dottie from.
Right.
She is a league leader in RBIs. She played all 12 seasons. How many RBIs did she end up with in 12 seasons?
12 seasons. 1,500.
Not that many. 431.
Okay.
These weren't high-scoring games usually a lot of the time.
Okay.
But she is also the all-time leader in games, at-bats, RBIs I just said, and walks.
Wow.
Dottie Schroeder, Dorothy Schroeder, is definitely another name that should be celebrated more. I mean, that's an all-time person in 4 categories.
And 12 seasons.
All 12 seasons.
And I played a catcher, I thought, right? Wow.
So I'm sure she got moved around.
Yeah.
I don't think she played every inning behind her catcher. I don't think she played every game.
Huh.
But, yeah.
In real life, was her sister a player as well, like the movie?
I don't know about that. I think that might have been added. I think that was Madonna's character, if I recall.
No. Madonna was an outfielder. Oh. Her sister was somebody else. I can't think of her name, but they came from a farm.
He's got movie trivia. I got actual factual trivia.
Yeah, I think they came from a farm, like in Iowa, maybe, and that's where they recruited from. And her little sister was always in her shadow.
Yeah.
And
I don't know if Dorothy... I'm sure Dorothy had a sister during this time of America.
Who knows?
But I don't know if she played for the AAGPBL.
Interesting.
Let's shift to pitching. Season leader... I love these nicknames, by the way, that are coming up. Season leader in strikeouts. She was named the strikeout queen. That's what people called her. Her name was also Dorothy. Her last name was Dorothy Wiltz. How many strikeouts did she get in a year? 108 games, and she pitched a lot, I'll tell you that.
175.
293. So whatever she was throwing, whether it's speed or movement, she fooled a lot of people.
Well, 300 used to be the kingpin. If you got 300 strikeouts a year, you were doing exceedingly well.
And that's a full season.
Yeah.
Not 108 games.
Wow. That's impressive.
So, yeah, exactly. It should be celebrated
her
more.
arm must have been. I bet she pitched the whole game, too.
So, here's a person that's even a little bit, longevity-wise, a little bit better than Dorothy. Her nickname? The Polish Rifle. Coolest one for me. I love that.
Yeah.
Her name was Connie Wisniewski. Hope I say that right. Obviously, you can hear the ski at the end of it. She was the season single leader in innings pitched and wins all one season. She just pitched nearly every game, or every other game, I guess. How many wins and how many innings pitched? She was a workhorse. The Polish Rifle.
35 wins.
Pretty close, pretty close.
And then strikeout.
No, innings pitched.
Oh, innings pitched? Whew. 700 innings pitched.
33 wins and 391 innings pitched. I think I might have oversold how often she pitched. But she pitched a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's...
Wow.
She didn't win every game, obviously. Let's say she pitched 40 games. I mean, she pitches every third day.
And back in those days, there wasn't any rehab. You just sat down, gave you Coca-Cola, and then down next city.
Polish Rifle, Connie Wisniewski.
Good for her.
All-time wins. This person is still alive. Her name is Helen Nicole. How many wins all-time? Only 12 seasons. How many wins do you think?
Did she pitch in those 12 seasons?
She pitched, I think, 9 out of the 12. But check me. Helen Nicole stats. She also is the...
134.
163.
Okay.
She also is the all-time leader in games pitched and strikeouts.
Wow.
So Dorothy Wiltz had a better year than her one year, but again, Helen Nicole played
consistently.
Yep.
Wow. Wow, you gotta give credit to these ladies.
I know, right? You gain appreciation. Hopefully, you gain some appreciation from this podcast.
I bet you that, and the team probably didn't have a whole lot of bench players. They probably had 14 players, and you played every day.
Especially when I would argue that this league was stretched thin with 10 teams. Yeah. I mean, that's 15 people per team. It's still 150 for a league. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
$75 a week. I mean, you can do some math.
Yeah.
You know.
And I bet you after the game, you got on the bus, they went to the next city. Probably sometimes you slept on the bus, and the conditions couldn't have been very good.
No.
Wow.
I want to end with a story about, I think, one of my favorite people from
I'm
this
just getting
time
warmed
period.
up.
I know. No, I know. It's fun though.
Yeah.
There'll be more podcasts. If everyone really liked this, we will have more fun stories out of the history of baseball coming up. Jean Fout. It's one of my favorite stories coming up. She's still alive. She is known for really two things. First question is, and you'll probably say yes to this. Perfect games. You're very rare.
Sure.
I think there's been maybe 15 over the course of MLB history. Maybe I'm wrong. It's less than 20. How many, if any, perfect games were pitched during these 12 seasons?
I say 25.
So in the history of baseball, I think there's 12 perfect games.
Okay.
Let's just say that. It could be 15.
Okay.
It's not more than 20.
All right.
There's 12 seasons. How many perfect games were there?
8.
Okay. 5.
5. Okay.
I think it's impressive because the last time we had a perfect game was King Felix, I think.
I think so.
Threw one in 2009.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we've had a perfect game.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of no-hitters this year.
Right.
But 5, and Jean Fout threw 2 of them.
Wow.
Jean Fout isn't listed on any of the all-time records. But besides that, because she left the AAGPBL, because she was a very independent woman that don't need no man. Because why? Why'd she leave the AAGPBL?
Too many rules.
Her husband was a manager,
and
she couldn't take his rules when he benched her and pitched somebody else. When he came out to take her off the mound, she was like Trevor Bauer out there, throwing the ball at him, throwing the ball out of play.
Interesting.
She was a firecracker. She's still alive, and she's 99.
Good for her.
But she just wasn't having it. She said, I'm leaving this league. I can't stand my husband. Leaves the league, divorces her husband.
Wow.
In 48 or 50 or something like that. Doesn't matter. It's still tremendous at that time.
It is great.
So Jean Fout, shout out if you're listening to this. If anyone has family related to any of these ladies, please, message us, email us, because we'd love to get them on a podcast or teach them how to do a podcast maybe, because we really appreciate and value some of these things that, you have your own Hall of Fame. I really think that you should be a part of the MLB Hall of Fame in Cooperstown. I know you guys are a different league. But
I thought they have a section.
I think they have a section, but they have their own legit building somewhere in the Midwest.
Okay.
But yeah, I just think that is. I hope someone learned something from this podcast to appreciate something, gained appreciation, because the AAGPBL is just filled with lore, filled with something I would love to.
And a credit to their toughness to last through, and it had to be not the best stadiums, not the best conditions. Not the best travel.
Yeah. 108 games every summer, pretty much, Memorial Day through Labor Day.
Did they have spring training too?
I think they had tryouts every year.
Okay. And then you went right to the season.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Can I tell an interesting story?
Sure. Is it related to the AAG?
It is. Okay. It is. When I was in the hotel industry, every Memorial Day there was an all-women's baseball tournament at Bachman.
This is in Maryland, by the way.
Yes, outside of Baltimore, Maryland. And they did have, bring back the players to be part of that thing. But the Women's Baseball League, there was a big influx of teams from Canada and one from Japan that came and played in this tournament on Memorial Day every year, and we got to host them at our hotel. One year, one of the players came, and she was 90-some, but she was still with it and everything else. But there's still women's tournaments and leagues throughout urban areas, and still very big in British Columbia and Japan. Just FYI.
Baseball transcends culture, transcends gender. It is just one of those sports that will be around. If you ever think about baseball, how long it's been around in the human culture versus other sports, everything else is new. Football, new. But compared to baseball.
Basketball.
New compared to baseball.
Yeah. I agree.
So it just has a great. We can literally keep this kind of trend up with our podcast of just fun stories and trivia out of baseball's history. So we hope you enjoy the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League one. Give us a comment. Share it, especially, again, if you're related to some of these people. I'd love to hear your stories, and I'd love to get them on the podcast.
Or give us topics for future discussions.
Yeah, we got a couple coming up.
Yeah.
The next one will be crazy trades in baseball history. I'll give my dad that.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be really entertaining. This one was very fun facts. The next one's going to be filled with, I think, a lot of laughs.
Good, good, good.
Yeah.
Well, great. Very entertaining. Kudos to Patrick for the research. But yeah, it was great. I'm glad that I knew a snippet of some of that stuff.
Yeah.
But
You did great. This was fun.
Yeah, give those ladies credit for really adding to American culture.
Mm-hmm.
So, good.
Thank you for joining us.